So hi, everybody. I'm Moira Zellner for those who joined in a little bit a little while ago. I'm going to be admitting people. Dean is going to lead the tutorial today, and I'm just going to be jumping in as needed. But we wanted to start this series of tutorials. We're going to be, to help you in your work on how to use these tools to more effectively guide your outreach efforts. And the idea is that we're going to hold these frequently. So we are recording it, but Zoom takes a little while to have them, to post them. We will post them though on our website. But in the meantime, know that we will have these regularly, and so that there's going to be more opportunities to go over whatever new things we add to the mapping and the platform tools, and other things that maybe are things that we've seen before, but maybe there's new questions about old things that we're happy to go over as well. So with that, maybe Dean, you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure, and also one more thing too. So please email us suggestions for future talks too. If there's something you think that needs to be addressed in more than just a few minutes, we can look into that and prepare something, but let us know. And so I am Dean Massey. I think many of you have interacted with me over Zendesk or over email for help for the platform. I am a member of the UPBL team at UIC. And so let's get started. So we're going to go over a few things today: how to find your RA area, how to do response rates, and some other things. And we'll just jump right to the maps. And so I'm getting to the maptocount.org website. And I'm going to click on, well, somebody's blending away. Okay, there we go. I'm going to click on the Maps tab. And we have this new page here. You may have seen before. There's two different options. For everyone here, you should click on a regional intermediaries and subrecipients page. And this will bring you to the map that used to be there before, the direct landing page from that map tab. And so this is still the same 6 maps you can see here.
So one thing that I would like to encourage everybody to do is, if you can, I know it's hard to kind of like share, look at the screen and then do your own thing. But if you don't have the Zoom as full screen, you can actually try to follow along with your own map. So if you can open the website, it would be great if you can try it as we show you. We'll also give you some time to try things out, but like if you want to do that, that would help, I think, just to gain the familiarity with the website.
I think we need to ask everybody to mute themselves too.
I think you can also do mute all.
Okay.
Participants, yeah.
Let me see.
But then again, like just feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question and jump in.
Okay. So on this landing page here, you'll see the same things like the current response rate for the state, the ranking nationally, and also we have some text here now that goes into a little more detail explaining what the mapped account projections are, how we created them. We have a few different kinds of projection products. We'll go into some of them more. We don't want to get too bogged down with that now. We want to jump right into the maps though, but this is here if you want some more explanation, and we're always available to go over this more. Okay, so the first off, to find an RI area, let's go into, we'll use Lyndon's area as an example. So she is Illinois Public Health Southern, and so let's go to the rural map. So most of her districts, most of her area is rural, so we'll get almost all of it here. So while it loads, I'm just going to point out again, there's a few factors on top here that are the important factors for rural areas that reduce turnout. Okay, so now the map's up. The first thing I'm just scrolling down a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn on the layer for RIA service areas. It's there underneath the boundaries layers and above the events, the activities layers. All right. And then I'm going to click on this triangle here next to the search bar, and you'll see there's different options for what you can search for on the map. You could set it to all that would search through all these layers. I'm just going to set this to RA service areas. It'll reduce the number of results we get. So let's just start typing. Illinois public. Okay, there we go. So there's two options. You don't even have to type the whole thing. Sometimes acronyms will work, sometimes it won't. It depends on whether it's included in the name in the file. So I'm just going to click on Illinois Public Health Association Southern here. And then it'll zoom to that area automatically, and it'll surround it in this blue highlighting. So you can just scroll over a little bit to center it. If you want to move this box out of the way, but still have this highlighted, what you can do is click somewhere on the map in that area. You'll get new information there. We'll go over that in a minute. Or you can just cycle through those layers, and then you see, go back to the IPHA Southern here. Okay. So one word about these service areas. These are based on the survey that we did well, I guess it was a month ago now. And so it's fairly straightforward downstate where there's one, maybe two RIs in an area, but it's more confusing. Well, not so confusing. It's less clear cut in the Chicago area where there's overlapping areas of RIs. So visually, you can't tell it as easily as you can down here. Like London's district is very clearly delineated here, the southern part. So next, if you want to see the response rates, that actually is on by default when you go to the maps, but if you turned it off and want to get back to it, you just down here, day 62, 520, census 2020 self-response rate map. And so this will show the tract level data. And I'm going to scroll up quickly, turn off RI service areas because you really shouldn't have too many of these maps on the same time. And so now you can see the response rates. So lighter means higher response rate, and the darker is lower response rates. And so if you want to see more specific detail about the response rate, you can click on the tract. You can see the cumulative self-response right here. So here it's 50%. Let's click on a higher one here, 69%. And then if you want to, again, highlight the whole RI turf, you can click on the arrow there and you're back to that. I can see those questions coming up.
Yeah, there was a question because Phyllis, do you want us to go back and a couple of pages and redo this part, or maybe we can do it with another example? I don't know if you were able to find what you needed. Okay, can we just kind of like repeat it with a different territory maybe?
Sure. Let me just go.
So Phyllis, actually, which organization are you on? NAACP.
So that's a sub-recipient organization. Do you know what RI contract that's under?
HSI.
So let me go to the City of Chicago for that. It's loading here. All right, I'm going to turn, well, I'm just going to, again, click on the RI service areas here. And actually, before I go any further, I'm going to turn on the RI service areas layer and maybe turn off the self-response layer so it's a little more clear. Moving a little bit over.
So here what happens is that because we're in the city of Chicago, there's a lot more overlap of RI service areas because there are different RIs working in the same geography, but they're targeting different populations. And so this is something that we're going to see here that is different from the first example that Dean showed. Yes, Omar, yes, we will get a recording for future reference. And again, we will do these every week. So we can revisit this every week. And also you can ask us in between as well. You can send us questions through Zendesk or through the contact form on the website. And you can ask us any questions that you need about these.
Okay. And so this is a good example for how an acronym would not work. So in the system here, it's listed as just Habilitative Systems Incorporated. So I'm going to click on that after I typed in habilitative. And you can see the areas that they have are highlighted, they're surrounded by this blue. So I'm going to maybe zoom in just a little bit.
So the zoom is there on the upper left corner. If I don't know if you got to see that.
So this has two different areas, but let's just focus on the southern part for now. So I'm going to turn off the RA service areas layer, and then I'm going to turn on the 62 Census 2020 self-response rate map. And so then again, this shows the self-response rates here. Darker means lower response rates. Let's just click on this again. So here, this track's self-response rate is 34%, whereas in maybe a little further out, oh, actually I'm gonna, so I click on this to cycle through to habilitative STRF. I'm going to click on a tract that has a higher response rate, maybe down here, 74%. Okay.
So Phyllis has a question here, Dean. So they're wanting to target their census tract areas. So Phyllis, what Dean was just showing you, if you can again highlight the area, Dean, as the whole HSI area. So so essentially that tells you all the census tracts that are in that area and where you need to target. So going to the next question, because these are related, the key for the colors. Can you show the key for the colors? And I'll explain. Essentially, the darker the color, the lower the response rate, or the lower the value for whatever that is. So you want to focus on where are the dark colored areas in your district.
And then
so
on a tract, you can also see the factors that contribute toward low self-response. And so this is different for each of these maps, the different geographies. So it's different for the city of Chicago versus the suburbs or rural areas, urban clusters. And so in Chicago here, the factors, just for example, are vacant housing units, residents with high school diplomas, people who are unemployed, or percent of people who are male. And so then if you wanted to see those factors on a map, let me actually just turn off the self-response rate first. If you scroll down, right here, so right underneath the RA service areas, you'll see factors. So the first factors listed are the ones that contribute low self-response rates, below that are more demographic, hard to count populations. So for Chicago, it would be these 4 layers. So let's just turn on one, just for an example. So vacant units. And so there is a lot of overlap you can see between, actually, let me just get habilitative back.
Okay, so can I pause for a second, because there are a few questions. So things that we need to show is how do you show the factors that affect the low response rate? So can we go back to that and show that again? And how do we know what these factors are? So that's the layers that you're going to show in a bit. Melissa, DRI is a regional intermediary. And I know it's Thursday and it's late. we're all in the same boat there. We're all tired. So regional intermediary is like essentially the main grantees of that are supervising or coordinating the outreach, and then that have the sub-grantees. So there are RIs and subs right here in this group. Yes, and so we can definitely further identify tracts by neighborhoods. Give me a few minutes and we'll get there. Right. And so being able to, we can go to a census tract areas and pinpoint which ones to focus on. So yes, we'll get to that. So let's go back then to how do you see the factors, and then go from there again, Dean.
Okay, so there's two ways to see. At the top of each of these maps, the text will, at the top will say the factors there. And then if you also click on a tract itself, the pop-up, not that one. Oh, okay, I think I have to have the self-response rate on. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on, the self-response rate layer back on, and I'm going to click on a tract, and then there, along with the self-response score, self-response rate, you'll see the factors listed there again. So you have to have one of the self-response rate layers, so either the actual rate or the difference between real and projected, one of those layers, and then it'll show those factors there when you click on it. And so if you want to see also, so if you have like a low self-response, one thing you might want to do is see if other activities have happened in that area. And so these other layers that are on right now, all these colors that are like circles or crosses, those are showing the activities that are mapped. And so on the layers list here, those are located underneath RA service areas and above potential partners. There are these 5 layers. So whether it was a direct single event, direct engagement, media, trusted messengers, or questionnaire assistance, all of those 5 things are mapped here if it was mappable. And these are all the reports that you're submitting on Mapped Account on the platform. And so let's zoom in a little bit. Again, going up to the left-hand corner and clicking on a plus arrow. You can also use your mouse wheel or arrow keys to zoom in more. And so maybe one more time. So you can see some areas here where there is not too much happening. At least that's been mapped here. And so if you were the RA for this area, then you might want to focus on these areas. And then if you, okay, let me just look at the questions for a minute. Okay, if you zoom in close enough, you should be able to see the street names. If you want to see the street names more clearly, though, you would have to turn off these other layers. Actually, so let me turn off the I had 2 on. So you can see here, for example, like West 63rd Street, Marshfield Avenue. These labels are dynamics, and so if you zoom in more, you'll see more detail, neighborhood names, and so on. Let me see. It looks like oh yes, the transparency is available too. So if you do have these other layers on, this is self-response layer again, what you can do is click on the arrow to expand the layer, and then under opacity, you can change that. And so
then you can see the streets, because that's what they were precisely asking right now.
Okay. Let me scroll up just a little bit for a second to see if there's other ones.
There is a question that I want to clarify, because they are commenting that some areas are not shaded. And the reason for that is because right now we're just focusing on city of Chicago. And so this particular map is only going to show city of Chicago data. So whatever is not shaded is because it's not in the city of Chicago, or it could be because of differences in boundaries between 2010 and 2020. That might be another reason why something doesn't quite show up.
Right. Or are the areas like here where there's the park, Jackson Park, or a few scattered areas where maybe more industrial areas, like here Midway Airport, there's no PD actually living in there, and so it's not showing up. There's a few other areas like that too, where maybe in the past there were housing units there, but there are maybe some, but there's not enough for it to really be to create an estimate from the number of people there. Like here too, it's just another blank spot. There's a few scattered things like that, but the main answer though isn't more as said before. So let's just let's go back to Southern Illinois again, so we can get to the partners level data. So who you might want to work with. And this is going back to what Lyndon had asked us about. So I'm going to go back to this page. I'm going to click View Map. And this will be another example of how you'll see more of these shaded or areas that aren't shaded here. So let me zoom in a little bit more. Actually, let me just go to Lyndon's service area. So I'm going to, again, type in a name here. Always part of it. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and you'll be able to see here there's like some holes. So these holes are the areas that would be in other maps. So that might be like an urban cluster or something like that, but they would be on other maps.
Now, if you wanted to see this like as a whole map, then you can see this in the entire statewide map that we can show you, right? The issue with that, though, is that when you look at the state map, it's hard then to see like which factors affect response rates in which areas. This is why we have both.
Mm-hmm.
The statewide, you can see everything as a continuum and it's all, you know, together. But in the, you don't see the factors that affect the specific area, the response rates in the specific area. If you go to the specific geography, whether it's rural areas or Chicago or outside Chicago or suburban areas, then you start seeing the factors that affect response rates over there. And that can then guide you by, once you know what factors, you can click on the layers to see what is the value of those factors in that particular area. So I don't, if you can show that, that would be great, Dean.
So the factors here. So I'm going to again click on a tract, and you'll see the factors listed there on a pop-up if you have this response rate layer activated. And again, the factors are listed on the top of these maps too. So let's say you've identified some areas that have low self-response scores. So when I was looking at Lyndon's turf, I noticed that there were some areas in Wayne County that had relatively high projected response rates, but the actual response rates were much lower. And so what you could do, once you've identified those areas, you can, let me do this now while I'm talking about it. So there are layers for potential partners. You can turn that on, and these will be these larger circles that appear. And these are dynamic labels, icons. And so as you zoom in, more will pop up. You'll see them in different places. And so they're just aggregating these different kinds of potential partners, so you don't see tons of dots all over at once. So that's why they change when you zoom in. So you can see there's like 15 features here. If you click on it, you can zoom in more and it'll spread out, and you can see more. Let's go in a little bit more.
Maybe go to one of the darker ones which have the lowest response rate. So that's where we would go. See, like, so when you see the darker color, those are the areas that need to like maybe have a little bit more going on to increase the response rates. So there you can look at what potential partners you could work with to try to you know, coordinate activities in that area that might help increase response rates.
And these were the information in this layer. These are different kinds of organizations that were found to be associated with higher self-response rates. So if you work with these kinds of organizations, it should make your messages you're sending out more effective. And so there's different kinds, like they're color coded to like healthcare, education, faith-based organizations, and so on. And they're also, again, like the size of the circle responds to how many there are. So let's zoom in a little bit more. So let's say this area, Norris City, it looks like. We want to do something there. So we can click on this circle. And you can see there's 25 features there. So you can either zoom in a little bit more. Maybe let's do it one more time, because that is a lot. You're getting a little bit more detail here now. Let's click on this smaller circle here. So this is 4 features. I'm going to click on Browse Features. And then this will bring you to a screen of the different organizations here. So the first one here is a faith-based organization, Chat Advert Ministries. If you click on these arrows at the top of the pop-up window, you'll cycle through the different organizations. So here's another church, an elementary school. It looks like some kind of community service organization, Coleman Tri-County. You can always Google these. Let's click on this bigger grouping up here, 21 features. So again, you can see the different kinds of organizations, the public library, municipal building, gas department, so more municipal services, schools. You get the idea though. So there's lots of different things. And so this could give you an idea and
of who to partner with.
Right.
Did we actually get Dean to show them the layers of the factors that contribute to low response rates?
I did briefly. Let's do that again though. So here, so this is the rural area. So people without high school diplomas, unemployment, vacant units, mobile homes. Let's just click on one of those layers. So I'll turn off the response rate layer. I will scroll down just a little so you can see these four layers listed here. Let's just go on maybe no high school graduation. And let me zoom out a little bit too so we can see more than one tract.
And then you might want to like again highlight either the RI area or the particular county so that you know you can keep track of that as you change layers.
And so one thing that she asked us was, so one of her subrecipients is a local NAACP organization. And so they wanted to know how they could locate Black people with these maps. And so we can't get to the level of detail like street, but we can do the tracts. And so I'm going to turn off high school graduation. And so again, these hard to count categories, demographic categories, these don't like really actually affect whether someone will respond or not to the census. But what they are good for is helping to tell your messages. So if you wanted to know where certain kinds of populations live, you can use these layers and that can help you craft your message better. But there's nothing about these groups that actually are associated with lower response, just to make that clear. So I'm going to click on Black non-Hispanic population. And so the darker the layer, the higher the rate of those populations. So it's here, for example.
The higher or the lower, are you sure?
Yeah, it's a higher.
Okay.
So like here, down in Cairo, it's over 50%, but there are a lot of pockets throughout the whole district. So let's just maybe focus on one tract here where there's a lot of people who are Black, but it's not like doesn't look like there's too many activities happening there. So that might be a good area to focus on.
Or just, just in terms of, again, of informing the kinds of activities that you might want to hold in different areas.
Right.
So the idea is again, that maybe you first of all, go from your RI area to within the RI area, which tracts are not doing very well, which ones are not having as much activity perhaps, and then looking at the factors and how those factors distribute in that area where the response rates are low, which ones are the ones that maybe are influencing that low response rate more. Which of those HTC factors are the ones that maybe we need to pay more attention to. Mm-hmm. And so again, then based on that inform, okay, what you can do, what you can do about those factors, where and with whom. So that would be like the partners.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more complicated now. So like, for example, in the past, like if areas with high unemployment, you'd be more likely there'd be people there home during the day, but of course everyone's home now. So the whole COVID epidemic complicates things, but it's still helpful to know these other factors though.
Right. One of the things that we also wanted to share, so the darker areas are the ones we need to concentrate on. Yes, in response rates, yes. So the other thing that we wanted to share with you is the difference between response rates and projected rates. And so I don't know that we dedicated much time to that yet.
We
And
have not
so
yet.
this is what we wanted to also explain. So can you also like go back to searching by RI? Okay, so say that we just, search for that RI, that's the area. And what Dean is showing you here is a map that is not, it's not just the response rate, but the difference between the response rate today and what was projected to be the response rate in that area. And why this is important is because that projected response rate, which is what we estimated based on sociodemographic data and changes since 2010, is essentially a goal, right? The goal of how much we expect that the response rate is going to be in that particular census tract. When we look at the difference between that goal and where we are, that is what gives us a difference of like, oh, we are really far from our goal in this particular area. So going back to Cindy's questions, yes, also here, the darker areas are the ones we need to concentrate on. So that layer is a little different from the response rate by itself. And why we think is important is because an area might be projected to do really well and have a high response rate. And so you might have, say, like a 60% response rate in that area. But actually the goal or the projection for that area might be 80%. And if you're still at 60, that's not high enough. And we're counting on those high response rate areas, right? So we need to work on those areas too, as much as we need to work on areas that are low response rate, but that maybe, they are low response rate because, okay, there's like a lot more vacancies and things like that. And the projection for response rate for that area might actually not be that high. And you might already be close to the goal in those low response rate areas. So that's why it's important to look at the difference between where we are now in response rates and then also what was projected for a particular area.
Right. So this tract, going to a question, this tract is 32 points behind. So this is really far behind. This was a tract that was not expected to have an especially low response rate, but it actually is. And so this is an area where they should try to focus on. And going to Carl's question, these circles haven't changed from when you change the layers, underline.
It's a potential, it's a potential partner. So if you click that off, because I think that is just, So if you click that off, then you won't see those circles. It just was showing the potential partner layers. And one of the things that we recommend is not to have too many layers on at the same time, because then it just becomes difficult to see and distinguish things. The projections, yes, was pre-COVID, definitely. The one thing to think about is that this is why the census timeline was extended. So we still have those goals that we would like to meet. So that's something to consider.
Let me switch to another window briefly to show an example for this. And so let me actually project it here. So this was a map for this area of the projected response rates. Again, if it's darker, that means lower. And this is actually the real minus the projected. And so you're seeing a lot of overlap, but then there are some areas here where, like again, this area, it was projected to have a high response rate, but it's performing really poorly. And there's some other pockets like this too, like here, it was a relatively high rate projected, but it's doing poorly. And so if you compare these layers too, you can help target these, but the real minus projected itself is still a good layer because it is capturing a lot of those differences already, most of the differences.
So the idea is that with these tools, it can help you look at what to do where compared to what have you done already, what needs to be done where, and what are some factors that can inform the decisions that you make about what you're going to do in those particular areas. So I want to open it up. Like, I know that there's been like some questions trickling in, and we've both been trying to catch them all, but we probably missed a few. So should we go, like, is there anything, Dean, that we were going to show today that we're missing, or should we just go to an example or a question from the group?
Those are the main things. Let me also ask Lyndon too, since we were focusing on her district. Did we answer your questions that you had emailed us about too, for how to identify these partners in your areas?
Oh my gosh, this has been awesome. I am typing little notes, and I know you're going to be recording this too, but I'm just typing notes like crazy. This has really been phenomenal. This is exactly what I wanted.
Oh,
Okay, great.
Great, excellent. The one thing that I want to just remind people of is how to keep an area selected. So can we just show that, Dean? Like, so either if it's by RI or by county, or so that it's easier, because people were also asking about how can we identify where we are, like if they want to search by say municipality. Here there's a question by Linda, how do you get to street level within tracts and things like that. So if we can just maybe select, maybe go to the statewide.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Let's go to the statewide, yeah. And by the way, I know that there are questions about maybe there's this feeling that you're not doing enough, or that you're doing is not having an impact. It is actually having an impact. We can show you later, like after we're done with the maps, like the graphs that show that we're definitely getting to the overall goals that we were having for these different regions. It's very challenging having to deal with a pandemic for sure. This is also where the DPA team can really be helpful in telling you, like giving you strategies for outreach of like what you can do in this moment. But you all are doing a phenomenal job given like the challenging circumstances that we're going through. And so this is why we wanted to also provide these tools and make sure that you ask questions and you felt comfortable using these tools to help you guide at least where you need to do things and what are the factors that you need to consider in those areas.
Okay, let me answer one question before I talk about how to keep a track or an area selected. So Linda asked about street level data. So this is the tract level is really as detailed as we can get. The census doesn't release data at a finer grain than that. And that's probably for privacy reasons, and also probably because it's set and are updating it daily. So it would be just a huge burden to have daily daily level updates for a finer grain than that. So this is all we can really do. And let's see, so how to keep an area selected. So I just did a search for Peoria, and so it's selected now. So if you click this, close this pop-up, then it'll go away. So you can bring it back, you just have to, and if it's not in the search bar at the top, you have to search for it again. So, but what you can do to keep that from happening is if you click on a tract here, like let's say you want to see the response right here, you can click on that tract. And then as long as Peoria City is listed here in the search bar, then you can cycle through the features. And so it'll go back to Peoria again. And so this box can move. So if it ends up covering up like the area you want to see, maybe just click like somewhere further out, and then you can see the areas with lower response rates more clearly.
And if you click on the transparency, so if you change the transparency of this map, so go to the self-response rate map and click on the arrow there on the layer, yep, and to opacity, and you can make it more transparent. So for the person who was asking, like you can zoom in and start seeing the labels underneath and streets and stuff like that. So if you can zoom in and show, maybe Dean.
Oh, well, let's
just zoom in.
Yeah.
So then you can still see, like, the areas where they're darker. So those are the low response rate areas. Oops, there we go. But then you can start seeing labels and streets and things like that. So that's one way you can do that. Marco is asking if we can review his area, because he's new to the project. He's in the northern Illinois counties. Marco, yeah,
let's
sorry,
wait
go
1
ahead.
minute first too. So
Yeah.
this is Peoria ends up being a good example for this, where you see these large donut shapes. And so what these are when you have activities that people reported and they're reported on a county level, rather than like maybe a specific city or some other smaller geography, it's going to create these shapes and it'll show all the different county level activities. So let's just click on.
So the big donuts is what we call them.
Yeah.
The big donuts are going to be the county level activities reported at the county level. And so and if you zoom out, you'll see that more clearly.
Yeah. Okay. And so there was a question from Marco.
Yeah. So if we can go to northern Illinois counties, and then Shelley, what you're seeing now is the census tracts. So the self-response rate layer and the difference between self-response rate and the projected self-response rate, those are all at the census tract levels. Mm-hmm. So again, like what you do, if you want to go to your RI, you select the RI, you keep it selected, and then you without, if you click off that layer, so maybe like, why don't we do it in an example? Let's go to Marco's area. Let's say let's suppose that it's the IPHA, am I saying that right? In the Northwestern. Did I say it right or did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can do Madison County too. Like whatever examples you want to do, we can do. So here you go. So here, see, you're selected. You have selected the RI, and all of the shading within the RI area, Shelley, all of that is different census tracts. Okay, and so here you can see the donuts and the little dots and stuff like that. Those are your activities. And then the different shades of, like by census tract, that tells you the response rate in each census tract. And the darker colored ones are the ones that are lower response rates. And again, we can click that layer off and click on the layer of the difference with projected, because again, we want to see where are we far from our projected goal. And so that gives you a different picture, a slightly different picture of where activities might need to be targeted. So that census tract in particular is way under, like 30 something under, right? So it might be good to start focusing some activities there. Mm-hmm. Shall we look at Madison County? I guess it's Madison, right? So we can search them by county. Yeah. Why don't you search by county? There you go.
Okay, so here we're seeing a donut shape of all the activities that are countywide, and then you can still see the difference. So this is the difference level on still areas that are performing relatively poorly. So like this tract is 25 points lower than projected.
You can search by city too, Lyndon. Yes, we have that by city, right?
Yep.
Can you click on the drop down? What do we have there?
Yeah, let me just
we've got municipalities.
Let's just select Alton because that's in Madison County. And we're there right now. So there you go. I mean, just to see the whole city.
Kuram, you're asking how to get which communities are participating in census in their local area. I'm not entirely sure. So which communities? You mean municipalities? I'm not sure I follow the question.
Illinois.
It was Madison, Illinois, what we saw, Madison County, right? Is that what you were looking, or was it this, is there a Madison City that we should be looking for? Oh,
okay.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so there's Madison City. Okay.
So there you go.
Okay.
Wow, that's an interesting boundary.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah. So, so Kuram, thank you for clarifying. No, so Kuram is asking about South Asian communities. So you're talking about ethnic or racial.
Okay.
We do have layers, sure.
Yeah,
So,
let me turn
Kuram,
that on.
can you actually give me an example of a particular area that you're working on, and we can look at it?
And just to point out something new.
Hanover Park.
Okay, we do have these 3 layers that now show just the percent of different populations. So whether it's Asian American, Black non-Hispanic, or Hispanic. So I'm going to turn on the Asian non-Hispanic, and
Go ahead and yeah, Hanover
Park is in
Park.
Chicago, right? So I'm going to. I don't see a Chicago neighborhood. We can add that if we don't have it. Let me just try.
I thought we did have that. We have wards, but
Yeah, let me just try putting on all then, and putting Hanover Park.
let's see if that works.
Oh, it's a village. Okay.
Am I not signed in or what?
Sorry, say that again.
So there we go. Here's Hanover Park. And you can see within this area, like down this tract here has a higher concentration of Asian people. So let's click on that. 32%. And so let's just go back to the whole Hanover layer there. Let's turn off the Asian layer and turn on the difference and self-response layer. So this layer is actually doing relatively well for its response rate. It's actually above what was projected, so that's great. But up here, this part of the village, it's still really far behind. So again, so this area, even that, well, let's actually just look at the straight up rate. So this was projected to have almost 80% self-response, and we're actually above that now. It looks like, or actually, we're projected to have 80. Okay, so we're behind. How much? We're close.
Hi, Dan. This is Yolanda Crockwell from Quad City Community Development Center. When I put in Madison County, I was thinking of Madison, Illinois, which that's close to Granite City, Venice, Illinois, Madison, Illinois.
So let's
Which
try,
is
let's try that again and just make sure that we're getting the right.
Okay.
Is this right? This is near St. Louis here?
Say it again now.
So this is near St. Louis, Madison City.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So do you want to see something specific in that area, Yolanda?
Yes, I was trying to see how we were doing because there were some really hard to reach areas in there. We're still working on it. We have a drive-through this weekend for census. So we're still trying to work it out.
Yeah,
so
there are some tracks here that are much beyond the projection still, 24 points below or up here.
But there seems to be quite a bit of activity in some of these areas, not in others though. One of the things that we're working on that we hope to have ready by next week is to actually have almost like an animation or at least different maps that show how the response rates have changed over time and how your activities have changed over time, to try to gain a sense of what you did when and if that or how that might have made a difference in the response rates. Because here it's some people were asking about this. These are all the activities that have been reported with some form of location. And it's all of them, cumulative, right? But we don't know what happened when. And so that's what we're working on, to try to provide a little bit more information about when specific activities happened and how that might have affected response rates in those places at the time that they happened or shortly after.
Oh, let me jump back a little to Quran. So, I think we may have answered that though.
Yeah,
Asian,
I think that we're good.
Okay, yeah. The Asian includes South Asian. Yeah, okay. So I think, are we Good eye.
Yeah, so maybe can you show them the tutorial that you wrote? So
Right,
in addition
okay.
to the recording, Dean has put together some instructions that kind of like repeat what we just went through. And again, like if you do have questions, you can, you know, reach out to us too. But like if you click on there, like help using the maps, read the instructions here.
All the map pages will have this, a link to that. All the maps on the RI pages will have a link to this anyway. So
Yes.
for the same things we covered here, how to get your RIA service area. So I'm going through a little, how to see the self-response rate in your area.
And so Kuran is asking if we can email them the links to these areas. Sure, we can provide you shortcuts to all of these. No problem.
Could you maybe send us a request on Zendesk, Kuran, just so we have the best way to reach you?
I think that we should send it to all.
Okay.
You know, I think we just, yeah, we should just like send the links to everybody so that everybody has it. So, but if you go to essentially, if you go to the maps, can we start like over again on maps?
Yeah, let me.
On the website?
Yep.
There, and if you go to regional
On this one.
intermediaries, yeah. And here, if you scroll down, you see to learn more, to help. For help using the maps below, read instructions here. If you click there, it goes to that page. But also if you go to each individual page, you will also have that link. So if you go to each individual map, you can also go to that link. But we'll send you this by email too.
Okay.
And then the last thing that I just wanted to show you, can you go back to the main map page for the RIs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Here. Is that if you scroll down, for each one of these, can you click on the view graph?
Yeah, let's do the statewide maybe first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just to show you, you guys are doing great. We're getting there. We're getting there. This has been a really, really challenging time. But what this is showing is the actual rates in blue and the projected rates in red. And so like what's the median value for response rates in all of the census tracts across the state? And so the shaded gray just shows like, you know, just the variability. Some are higher, some are lower. But overall, we're definitely getting there. And so if you scroll up, Dean, we'll have these for each geography. And so you see, we're getting to that point. And given, and despite the very, very challenging task that you guys have now for the pandemic. So we're getting there. So just wanted to hopefully end this one first tutorial with a positive note and, you know, of encouragement to let you know that, you know, the work is being impactful and it's being noticed. And, you know, yes, it's challenging, but, you know, hopefully these tools can help direct your efforts where they're needed the most. It is 4:53. I want to give like a few minutes if people have any burning questions. But again, like just know that this is just the first of a series that we're going to offer. We can go back to some of these things that we showed today, and then also show you new things as we develop them to help you out the best way we can.
I can stick around for a few minutes to answer some questions too. If not, you can email us. I can't stick around for too long though. I would say.
Oh, why don't we show them how to contact us through the website?
Sure. Okay. Let me go to the platform. I have that window open somewhere. Okay, so if we're on the platform and you need help, you can click here, and then you'll get to this page with different options. So if there's questions about how to like enter some outreach, you can click there. Then if you need to send us a message, here, you can click on this and it'll open Outlook. I'm not going to do that now. Or you can type in that email address too. So support@maptheCount.zendesk.com. And we will answer you within 1 business day. Usually sooner, but just to make sure. we can't always instantly get back to you, but we will get back to you within a day.
And then do you want to show them the form on the other website as well?
Yes. Okay, let me go back over there. So this is on the mapped-account.org again. So if you click on contact, then you can fill this out. Platform support, RA support. So the platform support will go to the UDVL team. The RA support goes to DPA, correct?
Yeah, I think that might be the case. So just send it to platform support and then we'll help you out with the maps.
Mm-hmm.
So we're receiving some nice and encouraging messages. Thank you. We are happy to help. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions between now and next Thursday. And we are here to help you. So please don't hesitate.
And also, again, if you have a more in-depth suggestion about something you want answered, we'd be happy to look into it too. So
yes, all of that feedback.
Week.
Yeah, all of that feedback helps us because then we might be able to do some tweaks or changes to the tools that can help you guys better. Okay. Great. Thank you guys very much. We'll let you all go, but we're here for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, we'll hang out for a bit. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.